You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. What if innovative wearable technology could offer new possibilities for mental health and chronic pain? Discover the details in today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we talk about an intriguing new technology to support mental health, manage chronic pain, and recover from brain injuries. Our guest shares how this approach is opening up possibilities for people who feel like they've run out of options. Karen Smith is a dedicated mother of 3 young adults, a traumatic brain injury and cancer survivor, and a passionate mental health advocate. Turning her past pain into purpose, she's committed to helping others improve their quality of life through drug-free, wearable neurotechnology products. From the young to the young at heart, Karen empowers individuals to live better, healthier lives, guided by her own journey of resilience and healing. Here is my interview with Karen Smith. Hi, Karen. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because we'll be talking about turning pain into purpose. And I know that you have an absolutely amazing story and information to share with us. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear that. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Petra. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I feel like we're going to be talking about something that we haven't talked about before on the podcast. I'll always love new things. So you want to start us off maybe with a little bit about your own story. How did you get to do what you do today? What brought you to that? What started that journey for you? And maybe share with our listeners also a little bit about what you do today so they can get to know you.
Well, how do I start? I would start many, many years ago. Over the years, I would say probably the last 20, 22 years, I've had a lot of things happen. I have been involved in several vehicle accidents. I've been thrown off a horse a couple of times. I've had a golf ball taken to the head, a lot of traumatic experiences. And of course, after each one of those, I would go to a hospital, get checked out, and I basically wasn't really feeling like myself. So in all of those instances, things like x-rays were done, CAT scans were done, MRIs were done, everything would come back normal. And I just wasn't feeling right. I was dealing with pain. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with migraines, sciatica nerve pain, and just not me. And of course, you go to the doctor, and I had a lot of prescriptions. Let's just put it that way. So over a period of 22 years, there was one point where I was actually on 12 meds. And I would say to doctors, like, I'm still not feeling better. Or I would take a medication and it would interfere with something else I was taking. So you would take another medication. It's been a long time of just not being me and recognizing that myself. And when doctors tell you that this is your new normal and get used to it, that wasn't sitting right with me. So I went on a journey to advocate for myself, to find other things that may be able to possibly help me with not only my physical injuries, but dealing with emotional things and helping with my mental health.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing that journey with us so far. It sounds like you're living a very dangerous life with a lot of different kinds of injuries. And of course, we know that when you're experiencing pain, like you said, it doesn't just affect one part of your body that might be hurting. It affects everything, and your mental health, your emotional well-being, everything goes into dealing with that pain. So I'm very curious, after these injuries and having that affect not just your body, but also your mental well being. How did you proceed from there to advocate for yourself since you didn't find the answers really in the traditional healthcare system? Where did you go from there to find something that could help you?
Well, oddly enough, social media can be a great thing. I was watching a friend of mine who was posting about these neurological wellness products. And it took me a while with it being something new and not knowing anything about neurology or how things work with the brainstem. To be honest with you, I kind of thought he was a little bit off his rocker. And he kept watching me too, because I'd be on social media and going, oh, it's not such a great day today. I didn't sleep well. I'm in pain. These meds aren't helping. He would keep saying to me, Karen, you should really try this technology. And I'm like, okay. So I finally gave in. And I said to him, I said, Paul, I'm not going to pay you for these products because I know I'm going to be returning them. So I gave them a try. And you know what? Sometimes we need to trust the process. There is a 30-day guarantee with these products, but I knew with everything that I was going through, I would probably need to be using them more than 30 days. And the great thing with that is meeting him and trying these products, I was also introduced to other people. In advocating for myself, as I said, doctors had done their process with CT scans, x-rays, and what have you. Nothing was found. It was just like each individual thing that I was dealing with, whether it be the migraines, the sciatica, the restless leg syndrome, those were all treated individually. And until I met Paul and was introduced to these products, I was also introduced to an amazing lady who is a neuro doctor who actually I went and had a QEEG brain mapping done. And when I explained to her all of my symptoms, whether it be the lack of sleep, the outbursts, the emotional unstableness, the sadness, depression, anxiety, and all of the pain, when we did the QEEG brain mapping, I was literally in tears when I saw the results, because what that came to show is I was actually dealing with a moderate traumatic brain injury. So although doctors were treating me for individual symptoms, the root cause had not been identified. And I think that happens in a lot of cases. To put things into perspective, I guess at that point, that's when I started turning my pain into purpose, because I saw what these products were helping me with, not only physically, but emotionally, that I knew that this was something that I needed to share with the world, whether it be my own friends and family or across the globe. So that's where this journey started.
Yeah, that's really interesting with everything coming together in the brain. And I think that happens, like you said, more than we actually think of, because a lot of pain actually is just the brain misinterpreting different signals, emotional signals, even as pain. So if we can change those patterns, if we can step in there and change what's being sent, we can, in effect, find relief from a lot of different kinds of things without massive invasive surgery, without being told to take pills or medications every day. So I find this very curious that you eventually got an answer that this actually all comes from the brain. What are these very mysterious products that you found? I'm very curious at this point what these things are. So share with our listeners what you found.
Absolutely. The company is called the Super Patch Company, and the patches are called Super Patches. And basically, what a Super Patch is, it's a suite of all natural, non-invasive, 100% drug-free, ingredient-free performance and wellness solutions for everyone. The patch itself is like a 2-inch by 2-inch patch. It's made out of polyethylene, so there's no latex, so you don't need to worry about if you have a latex allergy. It has a medical grade 3M adhesive to it, so similar to a Band-Aid. And with each patch, they have their own customized tactile impressions laser etched into them. And what they do is they activate and balance your body's own neural response mechanisms for things like pain relief, deeper sleep, greater athletic performance, and much more. So basically, the company has been working over the last 15 years to create these patches that send signals directly to your brain and optimize the neural programs that control your health and well-being. Our brain and our central nervous system control every single physical, biological, emotional, and physiological function in our body. And what happens is, whether it be from injuries like myself, illnesses, traumatic things that happen in the past, all of these things can lead to those neural programs getting stuck or damaged. And as you said, like a lot of things comes back to our brainstem. And for that, the patterns and the ridges that are on these individual patches, they trigger receptors and the ion channels in the skin to generate signals or messages that flow to the mind and help repair those neural programs. So it allows our body and our mind to operate at their highest level. We call it VTT, or vibro-tactile technology. And I always say to people, think about it as Braille for the brain. So it's the same mechanisms that allow the blind people to read with their fingers that allows the skin to send messages to the mind. So it's pretty incredible.
I'm just listening to you, and I have a bit of an advantage because I saw the patch before we started recording. But to anyone tuning in, you can imagine this as sort of a square Band-Aid with patterns on it. So it really is that simple. It's just a sticky pad, like you said, 2" by 2", and has like a certain pattern on it, and you stick it on, and that does its magic. So that to me sounds, maybe your first reaction to, I'm going to want my money back because it's not going to work. So my first reaction is, wow, if it works like that, why aren't we doing this more often with different kinds of things that people are experiencing if we are able to actually repattern our brain like that? Maybe share a little bit about some studies that have been done on this, or the science behind this, so that our listeners can get a bit of an idea of how this works from a scientific point of view. I feel like that could be very helpful to understand kind of what's happening in the body once you stick this on. How does it exactly help repattern the brain?
Right. So each patch, so we have 13 patches at this point. Each one has their own specific pattern. So depending on what part of the brainstem that you're hitting in order to send those messages throughout the body for whatever it is that you're needing. So whether it be for pain relief, for added mobility, stability, your immune system, focus, mental clarity, each one will have a different pattern. So basically what it will do is, if you've got a neural pathway that's blocked, in most cases, that's where you're feeling your pain, or you're not sleeping well, or whatever. Something is blocked in that messaging system. It will unblock that system. We have a Facebook group with over 65,000 different testimonials from people that have put them on there. And the great thing with these is, we have a research company in Boston called Clarity Science, and they do our third-party peer-reviewed studies. So completely hands off from the Super Patch Company. It's all independent. Our Freedom Patch, which is for pain, that study was completed and published as a research article in Anesthesia and Pain Research Journal. Our REM Patch, which is for sleep, that was published as an article in the International Journal of Family Medicine and Healthcare, again with the findings from Clarity Science. Our Liberty Patch, which is for your balance, mobility, and the Victory, which is actually similar to it but has more enhancements to it for athletic performance, being faster recovery and muscle recruitment. That one was published in an International Journal of Research in Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. So there's a lot of things that are backing these. And back in 2023, I believe it was in October, the study for the Freedom Pain Patch was actually presented at the 12th World Congress of World Institute of Pain in Antalya, Turkey. The REM patch, those groundbreaking studies were actually presented at the 27th Conference of the European Sleep Research Society in Seville, Spain, this past September. And just last month, our Peace Patch, those research and findings were presented at the 24th World Congress of Psychiatry in Mexico City. So we're getting out there. The research is definitely catching a lot of attention. There's a lot of athletes now that are turning to our products to use them for athletic performance, which has been great as well. So some amazing things that are happening with Super Patch.
I love the idea that we're not chasing after symptoms necessarily anymore here. We're actually going to the root cause, which is the brain that is involved in all of these different things. And like you experienced yourself, you were actually experiencing all different kind of symptoms and they ended up being connected to the brain. So I feel like we're not just chasing behind the things that are happening now, but we're actually getting to what's happening in our bodies with that, in our neurology with that. So that to me is a very exciting piece of research, a very exciting field for that. And yeah, I can't wait to have a look at some of the studies and understand a little bit better how exactly that works. But I feel like the results that you're also experiencing and that many other people are experiencing open up the door for these discussions on taking pain relief, taking mental health support into a bit more of a holistic space where we actually look not just at the pieces that are happening, but our whole being in a sense, and we address it that way. So I love the idea of that. Now, how do we stick these things on? Is there like a special place in the body where the brain recognizes it, or can you put it on your legs or arms, or how do people stick these things on their bodies?
Yeah. Each patch, they are a 24-hour use. Obviously, with some of the ones like our REM patch for sleep, you don't want to wear that for 24 hours. You want to take that off when you get up in the morning. But basically, all of the patches can be put anywhere on the body. Now, the only one that would be different would be the pain patch. So you want to put that in the area, the general area where you're experiencing pain. So for instance, for me, when I deal with migraines, if I can feel one that's coming on, I just place it at the back of my neck. And then that works its magic, as I say. But all of the other ones can be placed anywhere on the body because you've got those ion channels and those neural pathways everywhere, right?
That's really cool. What if you're addressing a couple of things at the same time? So if you have a migraine, but you also want to do better athletically, can you stick multiple patches on you, or should you do one at a time and kind of let that do its thing before addressing the next?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because Petra, right now I'm wearing 5 patches. I have one on right now that's helping with my sciatica nerve pain. I've been out shoveling some snow, so the lower back. I have one on that is called our Liberty patch. So that one there actually is, I call that the patch. It's like the gateway. It's the one that actually opens up the brainstem. It helps with your balance, your motor control, posture, heart rate regulation. So that's almost like the gatekeeper. It opens up the brainstem more, although all of the patches can be worn individually. When you wear the Victory or the Liberty patch, it actually opens up the brainstem and allows them to work better. So I always have that patch on every single day. I have my focus patch on right now, obvious reasons, because I want to be able to focus better. And I always wear our defend patch, which is for our immune system. So it optimizes the immune system. And you notice how I say optimizes and not boosts, because there are people that actually have immune problems that they have to be on suppressants. So you don't want to be boosting something that needs to be suppressed. All of these patches work in a way that it optimizes your neural pathways to work at their best level.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about the safety of these products and how safe are they for people? I mean, you just said you wear them every day. So I'm assuming, considering you're sitting in front of me, I think they haven't done any harm. So what's the safety like for these products? And are there any counterindications for certain people using certain patches? Is there anything that our listeners would need to be aware of if they're considering wearing these?
So, great question. And I always love answering this because the products are actually 100% drug free, chemical free, toxin free, ingredient free. They're safe for everybody. So, I always say they're safe for the young to the young at heart. There's absolutely nothing in them other than those ridges that are dealing with your ion channels and your neurotransmitters beneath the skin. So if you're taking other medications, there are absolutely zero contraindications whatsoever. So you don't need to worry about that. They are safe for pregnant women, kids. I've had them on like 3-year-olds all the way up to my mom who's 93. Absolutely safe for everybody.
That's even more interesting. It's safe for everyone. And
That's right.
people that have pacemakers or things like that, since we're not introducing any kind of electrical charges or anything, it's perfectly well for someone to be
Absolutely.
sticking those on. Okay. Yeah. That sounds actually like a bit of a very magical solution that you stumbled across for your pain management. And you've been wearing these, you said, for several years already now. So you have a bit of experience on more of the long-term effects of wearing the patches. And you've kind of touched on some of the different names and some of the different things that these patches do, but maybe take us through what these patches are meant for. You said, I think there were 13 of them. Generally, what kind of things could people use these patches for? What are they meant for?
As I said, we have 13 different patches. So we're talking one that's going to help with your sleep. For people that I always say to people, one of the questions I always ask is, do you dream? And if they say no, then that's an indication that they're not getting their REM sleep. Now, deep sleep and REM sleep are very, very important because that's where 95% of the healing of your brain and your body happens. So if you're not getting in that, a lot of people say, well, I sleep 8 hours. And it's like, okay, but are you in your light sleep stage for 8 hours? Because if you are, you're not doing your body any good. So it's very important that we, especially when you're dealing with things like traumas and illnesses, that you are getting into those deep and REM sleep stages. So sleep focus. We have the Defend patch, which is for your immune system. We have the Athletic patch, which is the Victory. We have one that helps with, it's called Boost. That's our newest one. So energy. Think about all of those people that are drinking energy drinks or using caffeine to boost their energy during the day. Don't need that anymore. We've got a patch for that. Things like balance, strength, range of motion, which is another great one that we sell a lot of.
What's your favorite one? You mentioned you had a favorite.
My favorite is the Defend for the immune system, only
Yeah.
because I have had a low immune system.
Mm-hmm.
The Peace patch, I wear a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is a stress relief, so it calms the brain. I've gone through this past year of grieving. I lost my mom. That patch has been very, very helpful for me mental health wise to get me out of the spiraling depression, that type of thing. Kick It is another great one for anybody that wants to kick some bad habits, whether it's sugar cravings, whether smoking, whatever it is that you define your own bad habit, it will help with that. Our Joy patch, which is one that I'm wearing right now, as we get into these darker days, shorter days, darker, a lot of things like seasonal affective disorder or just feeling that slump, right? So the Joy patch will actually give you more feelings of optimism and happiness. It's a great one. The Ignite patch, which is another one I have used in the past, and that is pretty amazing. So think about burning calories while you're at rest. So it actually increases the burn rate of 25% more calories burnt while at rest, which is pretty incredible.
Wow. I just think of all the people that are doing the Ozempic shot with absolutely incredible side effects that can be extremely harmful. So here we have some holistic things we could maybe try out for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. A lot of times where the new drugs come out or they find a means for a drug that's already out there, like Ozempic, as you mentioned, we don't really know what those long-term effects are going to be. And sometimes we find out years later, oh my gosh, I took this drug so many years ago and now they're finding this, right? I know myself years back when my mom was pregnant with me, they were given a drug for morning sickness. And they found out years later that it had an effect on the female offspring, that it could hurt fertility. Well, I went through that. So we don't know these things when we're taking all of these medications, what exactly it's going to do to our body down the road, never mind right now, right? So with these super patches, the great thing is because it's opening up those neural pathways and repairing them. And as you mentioned, I have been wearing them for some time. I can now go a few days without wearing any of them because it has repaired those neural pathways. As you wear them more and more, there is that residual benefit of it fixing and repairing or improving those neural pathways.
Yeah, is that sort of a bit of neuroplasticity going on where your brain is
Exactly.
relearning a lot of the different pathways it used to use and letting those go and making new pathways that are more supportive, more effective for us? So, yeah, I'm glad that we're touching on this because I know that science used to say that we can't change our brains. I think was past the age of 20 or 30. Then science used to think that was it and then we were done dead in the water. So it's actually great to know now that science tells us that we can affect neuroplasticity in the brain well into our old age. And so it's never too late to start working on things if you have things that bother you, if you're working with mental health challenges, with pain, anything that you're experiencing. It's never too late to work with your brain on that because science has proven that we are capable of changing our brain, I think, pretty much right up until we die. So we have lots of opportunities to make changes in our lives in a holistic way.
Yeah. Well, and too, I mean, our body was made that way, right? We were made to be able to heal ourselves. And it's just a matter of finding the right things that are going to help you heal your body. And although I use these patches every day, there's other things that I do. I use PEMF, I use light therapy. These are a great complement, another modality to complement things that you're already doing. And for me, it's been all holistic to get me to where I am today.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we were chatting about that a little bit before as well, is that usually we find different pieces of the puzzle that end up working for us. And I think these patches could be a wonderful addition to whatever else people have found to manage their pain or their mental health challenges or anything else that's going on for them. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm very curious as to how the person that designed these patches actually found out that these ridges would change the brain and would be affecting these different kind of things. So I don't know if you know that, but it's just something that's really popped into my head. And I was so curious, how would you even know that to put these designs on the patch?
I'm glad you asked that. Our founder, inventor, Jay, he actually had found a lot of research papers from years before. So his journey started that his mom was diagnosed with MS, and he basically wanted to find something to help her deal with her pain, deal with her mobility. And he had been to doctors all around the world. And oddly enough, he had decided that he was going to make this his passion, his mission to find something that would help people that was, as you say, non invasive, 100% drug free, safe for everybody. And when you look back in research, in 1939, there were actually two scientists that actually later won a Nobel Prize for the development of the MRI. And we're talking like 83, 84 years ago. So at that point, scientists then were proving that our bodies and our actual cells constantly receive and transmit signals. So building upon that, it's like we're like a radio station antenna, right? With all of these signals going back and forth. And in 2021, there was a Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine, which was awarded to two people in their discoveries of thermal and mechanical transducers. Again, transmitting signals through our body. So Jay basically just took that information and built upon that. And as I said, it's been 12 to 15 years that he's been doing this in and has put in millions and millions of dollars into research. And not one of our patches was released until all of that research was done. So it was not a matter of, okay, well, I've got part of it, so let's bring out a product that can sort of help. All of the money and all of the research was done first before one patch was even sold.
Wow, it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So, listeners, we're going to link to some of this information, of course, in the show notes. But, Karen, tell us, where can people actually get access to these patches? I know that you are in Canada, correct? So, obviously, Canada, it's available. I'm assuming the US. Where else can our listeners find these patches?
Yeah, so basically on my website, we have the products available in 28 countries in the EU. and Canada, as you mentioned, the USA, and the UK. On my website, there's actually a drop down. You pick the country that you're in. The products actually ship within that area. So we do have 3 warehouses in the EU. We've got one in the UK, one in the US, and one in Canada. So you pay in your own currency and it's shipped within your own region. So that's a great thing. There's no long waits or duties, taxes, and all of that kind of great thing. So my website is a patch for that .superpatch.com.
Wonderful. And of course, like I said, we will be linking to Karen's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on how you can connect with her. And Karen, are you also on the socials or on the internet if listeners have questions or they want to maybe ask about something they're experiencing to see if there is someone who's had experience with the patches before? How could they reach you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn, all under my name, Karen Smith. And I'd be glad to help anybody out that has any things that they're dealing with. I will say that we do not treat, diagnose, or cure any medical condition. But what I have found over the past few years of using these, I am very passionate about sharing with other people a product that is non-invasive that can help them out.
Yeah. And as you said, a complementary piece to our health puzzle that we can add in addition to other things that we might be doing at the same time. And of course, you always can consult with your healthcare provider as well, your doctor, and those kind of things. But I think if we're looking at a holistic picture, it's very nice to have options and information about how we can better advocate for ourselves, especially in those cases that I think a lot of people have experienced where a diagnosis has been hard to get, an answer has been very hard to find, a solution to the problem has been extremely hard to find. So especially also in those cases, it's, I think, very empowering to have other options to be able to integrate in your life as well to advocate for your own health. So amazing. And thank you for sharing this information with us. And listeners, if you end up getting your hands on some of these patches, let me know. I'm so curious to find out what they do, what you experience, what kind of things you're trying them out for. So reach out to me on Instagram, send me a message and let me know how that goes for you. I'm so curious now. I'm going to have to get some patches as well. So there's no shortage of things I could try them for, I'm sure. So that sounds really wonderful. And Karen, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an incredibly curious conversation, and I've learned a ton of things from you today. So thanks for sharing your wisdom on this with us, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you too as well, Petra.
Amazing. Take care, Karen.
You as well.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejōrni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.